So, welcome back everybody. There are still a lot of people in the room, and that on a Friday evening, that's great. So, let's talk about artificial intelligence now. AI is all over the place. And AI applications have become the tools through which many people get their news and information. AI tools can amplify certain narratives over others. What happens to press freedom when journalists are intermediated by artificial intelligence? That's the question. And how can we make AI serve press freedom? Is that possible, and how? Moderator of the next debate is Senior EU Policy Advisor from EBU, the European Broadcasting Union, François Lavoir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for being with us today and staying with us on the late Friday afternoon. This is the third panel of the day. I'll be moderating. And the panel is about AI and press freedom, which is a big topic to cover, as you can imagine, especially in 45 minutes. Because there's a lot of questions around that. I mean, obviously, we see more and more that AI is being used to access news content, especially for younger generations. And this may become even truer in the future. So there is a question around the influence that those AI tools will have on our media consumption and our news consumption. There's a question around the intermediation role that those platforms will take in the future and whether they will increase the distance between journalists and audiences. There are questions obviously around misinformation and disinformation that I think we all have in mind. And finally, there's also potentially the good that can come out of AI for press freedom. And so we'll also try to address these. And I'm really happy because I'm not alone to speak about this, fortunately. I have two distinguished speakers with me today. First, I'll start with Juliane. Juliane, you are the executive director at Detectors, and you are working with hundreds of journalists to promote media literacy in schools with children, teenagers, and teachers. You're also advising international organizations such as the European Commission on the issues of disinformation, media literacy, etc. And you were also in a previous life working as a journalist, so you also have that experience yourself. Maybe I'll give you 2 minutes, Juliane, to present a little bit your organization and what you do on a daily basis so that the audience gets to know you a little bit better. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Should be working. Is that working? Ah, wonderful. Hi. Thank you for the invitation. I'm really pleased to be here. So, as you said, François, disinformation is something that we've been worried about for a long time, probably like everybody in this room, both for the impact that it has on media credibility and therefore, by extension, on media freedom as well. And so we are an organization that works with journalists and trains journalists and deploys them very practically into schools and into educational settings to train teachers and to train children from the age of 10, handing them two things. First of all, very practical fact-checking skills so that the kids themselves can check what they're seeing on the many different apps that they're using that we adults are not using very often. But also we are transmitting, and via interactive games, we show them a lot about how journalism works and how complicated it is and how increasingly complicated it is to capture and portray truth. And so we do that, and we think that there's no time to waste in doing that. We're very large. We started in 2017. By now we've trained more than 500 journalists. We work in 5 languages, in 6 different countries across the EU in person, but online internationally. And we actually walk into more than 1,300 classrooms every year. I've got a colleague over there who looks after all of our Belgian classroom visits. So if you're interested, go and talk to Lise Ferrand. Are you there? There you are. There's Lise. If there's something that you want to do and if you want to get involved, then talk to Lise. And as François said, we use the insights that we get from the classrooms. We work with GDPR-compliant feedback forms, both to do quality control, but also to measure the trends in media and information consumption of children and of teachers. And we use those insights to advise various bodies, including the EU and various expert settings. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juliane. And our second speaker today is Serhii Prokopenko. Serhii is editor-in-chief at Gwara Media, which is an Ukrainian media outlet based in Kharkiv. Serhii, you and your team, you work on the front line, really, to cover the war's events and also to cover how the community in Kharkiv sustains and recovers from the war. And I must say we're very happy to have you here today because it was a very complex travel for you. So we're really glad that you're here. So Serhii, maybe also same question. Can you please present in 2 minutes what is your organization and how you work on a daily basis?
Great, thank you. My name is Serhii Prokopenko. I'm chief editor of Gwara Media. We are only one local English-speaking editorial team from Kharkiv. So if you need some information, Google us, visit us. We are a team of nearly 30 journalists working in Kharkiv, all time of full-scale invasion that started 2 years in 2022. And we do news, local reporting, photo reporting, video, multimedia stuff, and we have very intensive and very effective, very innovative fact-checking team. And we are members of the coalitions called International Fact-Checking Network, launched by Poynter Institute, and also members of Eurozine network in Europe. And we are doing our best to generate facts from this region. And just today morning, I was kind of collaborating with colleagues reporting after glide bomb attack in Kharkiv, and they were kind of collecting facts from the place of what's happening, and the situation there is not very good, and I hope we will share our experience how to work in such circumstances, including technologies.
Thank you very much, Serhii. And so I think diving in the topic of AI and press freedom, I think to start with, maybe I can relate on some of the recent political debates that have happened in Brussels. And I think something we've heard quite a lot in the discussions around AI regulation is there were a lot of very creative analogies to describe how AI can be both a good tool and a bad tool. So we've heard it can be a hammer, we've heard it can be a knife. But I think today we'd like to maybe start with the bad side of AI and finish with the bright side of AI and how it could be helpful to have, to lighten up a little bit the end of the afternoon. But maybe starting with the bad side of AI, Serhii, maybe starting with you. How have you seen AI impact disinformation? How has it impacted your work, in particular from the start of the war? Can you share a little bit your experience on this?
So context from which I can share some information. This is work of our fact-checking department that were launched on the 2nd or the 3rd day of invasion from the Kharkiv shelter basement where I was working for 3 months. And we started to think what we can do in order to build resilience, and I now would call this kind of digital resilience. Digital resilience in terms of persuasiveness of bad things, but also resilience of good things against, invasion. And now there is a team of 8 fact-checkers working on daily basis that are constantly operating with bot called P-Revirka, or in English this is check or checking. And this model works like it's a phenomenon for me that people, readers, don't often ready to speak with journalists, or journalists don't ready to speak with them in one-to-one because, trust issues, availability issues. But people good in writing to bots. They want to ask some services, doing something, but at the same time, behind the bots might be sitting just another journalist. And we did such bot with very initially simple idea. In the first days of full-scale invasion, hundreds and then thousands of requests, people started to write us. Because it was crisis, people were in shock, they were not knowing how to react to such responses. And we were overflooded, our services was disrupted, but we wanted to help our readers. And even now, today, 50, 100 people write to us, asking, today somebody was asking, there is new freedom of speech report, but by Reporters Without Borders or something like this, and Ukraine position increased for 19 or 17, 18 points, and somebody was asking me about that, was it true or not? And this information can be found via Google quite fast. Yeah, like, I don't know, you Google, you see trusted sources, you saw first source, and I pressed the button of the AI features that we have, and after a few seconds, it's generated me response and sources to the that they used. I checked this response, looked, I saw that they don't use initial source, but I saw that they use to another sources, and put status, this is true. And this is a feature that we created, and my goal was to prepare our team for any circumstances and help them with AI-generated assistant to process requests of readers faster. Not kind of became or delegate to AI this decision, but maybe it can decrease 5-20 seconds of the search or prepare variants for this. And we created feature, and then we won hackathon, and we still constantly experimented with this feature. And our methodology is to use AI for good to enhance work of journalists, especially from the fact-checking. I had a debate on this, and our approach is we are trying to use generative AI. You know all these latest tools, you all use them. And why are we using this approach and why I'm advocating for them? Because I'm thinking, you know, there's glide bombs flying on TV tower in Kharkiv and hit it, and we need to do some fact check. And we don't have a time to collect a team of super genius programmers and train models. But there is a company already investing billions in this, in Europe or in US or wherever. And we need to do fast and simple solutions to enhance our work and speed up journalists and bring this culture to the team. And this is the context from which I am speaking. And the work we do, and I consider this for good because people are happy and they say, thank you for this help, thank you for support, sending these donates. And it also brings for us new value of journalism when we can communicate with people using technology in another ways, in another approaches, and makes us more interesting for them, for young generation. For example, somebody put our bot to some children book, by the way, and they constantly sharing to us the same question about some journal called The Bee. I don't know, maybe it was, and they constantly write us. Is it true that some kid journal B was launched somewhere in Romania? We say yes, and explain them this information because I know people, seems like landscape is changing and people also want to speak and collaborate with technology and move with it.
Thank you very much, Serhii. And I think it's really interesting to see that even in the most stressful situation and where your resources are stretched, you can find ways of innovating with technologies. And actually, this innovation brings me to Juliane, because you are meeting on a day-to-day basis almost with the younger generations, right? And I think my interest, at least, was to ask you, do you see any change in the behavior with regards to AI and media consumption and news consumption when you talk to those children, teenagers, and teachers?
So what we see is that children as young as 10 are enormously interested in this topic. And you have to imagine that when our journalists walk into classrooms, they get kids raising their hands. You know, depending on what year you're talking about, they'll put up their hand and they'll say, is it true that if I wear a mask, I'll get ill? That was during the pandemic a lot. And these days they're asking a lot, why is the content, you know, why are the stories coming out of Ukraine so different, you know, depending on where you look at them? And then sometimes they also ask, well, you're a journalist, aren't you just writing what your head of state is telling you to write? And there's a really interesting conversation to have. And they go and look for the answers to these questions themselves. And they don't go to Facebook or Twitter or X it is, or Blue Sky or LinkedIn or wherever. They go to Often they go to gaming platforms. They tell us they inform themselves on Twitch, on Discord, on Fortnite. And that's significant because, first of all, it's completely unmonitored. We adults aren't there to hold their hand. And if you think about it, it's, for instance, QAnon, the very well-known conspiracy theory in the US, was born on a gaming platform before it migrated to the media mainstream and into politics. And these days, of course, they're hugely excited, young kids, about AI. Anything that's new, they're really into it. And I was literally speaking to a journalist yesterday, and he was saying he walked into a classroom in Berlin of 10-year-olds who were using ChatGPT to write their essays. And of course, you have this total divide in the classrooms between the kids who can't wait to get their hands on this technology and the teachers who are completely terrified, without either of them really understanding what it is about. You know, there are so many things that they still need to understand, you know, that this is really still in beta testing, you know, that they're using in a very high street way a technology that's very much still in evolution and development. That there is a real question, you know, it's called artificial intelligence, but what does intelligence actually mean in this context, you know? What is the difference between a search engine and something that relies on probability? What's the difference between a search result and something that is a probability analysis? And why does that matter? And so there's an awful lot of explaining, really basic explaining that needs to happen, and the journalists that walk into the classrooms have to tread a really fine line between, on the one hand, encouraging caution, and on the other hand, kind of assuaging the fears of the teacher, which can just divide the classroom so radically that you can't make any progress at all.
Thank you, Juliane. I think it's quite interesting also to see from a media perspective. I know, speaking with a lot of my colleagues working on news, for example, that they are really also trying to investigate how to use those new AI tools. And so there's always a little bit of caution, of course, because also, especially, you know, as public service media, you need to hold yourself to, you know, high standards, and you can't be seen as doing, you know, crazy things. But experimenting cautiously, I think. To give a few examples around translation, I think is one quite easy use case for AI. Of course, many of them are using AI also to try to improve their work streams and get rid of some of the most boring tasks. So when you look at chaptering content, you know, or just even tagging content to make it more findable, it is sometimes very, very, very helpful. And finally, to distribute your content better in terms of availability, in terms of findability. We also have happen to have a very nice EU-funded project that we're part of, which is called the European Perspective, which basically gathers together 20 newsrooms across, I think, 17 countries in Europe. And the objective of that project is to exchange editorial content, articles between different newsrooms, translate it in real time or close to real time, to get in your national language news from another country that is available on your public service media website or portal or whatever. But all this to say, those are all great projects, but it requires a lot of resources, right, and a lot of time. And Serhii, I wanted to ask you, well, how do you find those resources? How many people actually work on the development, on the actual fact-checking? How do you make up your team? And how do you find the skills also? Did you need to get any training in particular, or was it easy for you to find those people?
First of all, as everything started and need was exposed, of course, it was volunteers and people were motivated, and it was a huge social mobilization. People want to contribute somehow and help. And initially I found 15 programmers, but 3 of them left, two of them left. And with 2, we just, you know, like friends communicating. So now it's 2 people. They are working on their main jobs, and in spare time they help NGO with this stuff. And it's quite more or less fine, because sometimes it's more intensive times, sometimes it's not intensive times. And I know that they are very expensive, and I'm trying like, hello fellas, how are you? Maybe you can kind of do something that I don't know how even it's called. So 2 people, and they from time to time do this. The most important approach that I use is open innovation approach, because this is quite specific set of mind and some specific interest, and people should be motivated to do this. And I spoke with a lot of people in the organization, and only few of them were fit into this role because of their specific background or skills or mindset, because it's need a lot of creativity and entrepreneurship need for this. Maybe they even express their entrepreneurship and creativity on this task, not on their main job, that sometimes happens. So it's two people and me, and they all help me because I generated the ideas. Let's do like that, or maybe like that. Or what if we do like that? And they are trying to do this. And I don't think if they're happy or not. I hope, guys, please be happy. It's good thing. And two people, and we experiment with them. We don't write any technical documents or some stuff, and we slowly working and doing, and we use even Amazon or something like that. So yeah.
In practical terms that people understand well. So it allows, and I encourage people to go to your website because I think it's very well explained there in English and in Ukrainian. So what I understand is that people come to your services either through Telegram or through Viber, and they can access that chatbot, and they can ask specific questions about recent events. And then the chatbot will process their requests within 24 hours. It will be fact-checked by a human, and then you get a response within 24 hours for the easiest answers, I understand, and for the more difficult ones, it's within 7 days. Is that right?
Yeah, this team of fact-checkers, and they have tool bolt called Previrka, or check. And they have toolkit called bot, and people write to this bot. They come and say, "Can you check this?" and send link or a website or picture. And I was surprised. I was expecting that everybody would be sending me links to some website, local broadcaster or something like that. But websites really 5% of all people requests. And number of requests during this time was more than 100,000 requests of people. People came and asked, "Can you check if it's true or not?" And more than 50,000 of people were writing to us and asking this. And I was surprised. And they write and ask. And now we have strategy, say we should teach or learn these people on media literacy, because we can't outsource our brains for them, because it was a crisis. Now we need to just engage this audience and develop this audience, and we collaborate with them in this bot. And when people write to bot, somebody somewhere behind, fact-checkers receive in chat this request, looking on this, analyzing and write response to them, explaining why this manipulation, because it's 5 theses and 6 is concluding, and it's manipulation because it's wrong. There is no fact for this conclusion, and or this bias or opinion or whatever. And this is core feature, and of course we have analytical system behind that calculate statistics per one Telegram channel, and also we have quizzes that people can come and learn some topic, for example, I don't know, quality sources, for example. And there is 10 questions on this, and people then kind of receive our stickers, for example, that they can use in social networks. And there is also broadcast messages that we send weekly fakes for them, kind of what is on agenda, let's look. And this AI feature, but only fact-checkers use this feature, not users, but we've seen kind of experiment and to say, we are busy now, this is AI response, fact-checker will come and check soon. Maybe we do like this. We will test it and look how it works, who knows. And this helps these fact-checkers. It generates for them ideas. They're always on agenda. Yesterday I spoke with one of programmers who work in this project, and he say, when I first saw a wave that it would be need for replacing documents abroad for Ukrainians, I came and did these documents immediately. So it shows the waves, trends, or stuff, what happening, or when we see when there is manipulation with information space happening. For example, when some negative happens for Russia, they launch something like Putin is dying, every day he's dying, then he alive again, then he dying again. And it's very funny, and we see these waves. It was the same with Zhirinovsky, by the way. It was he was dying all the time. I don't want to joke about this kind of, but these waves exist. We can show them, and they exist. And it was very weird. And we saw these people interested writing to us, and these waves of information. And we do different analytics that helps process this statistic, and being based on this statistic, we do manually, I will be honest. Being based on this data, we do statistic of narratives, and we even have some research published in scientific journals on this, being based on this data, because data is crucial for these purposes, and I hope they will be crucial for maybe further international courts or whatever.
Thank you, Serhii. I will give a little bit of rest to you. I will ask a question to Juliane. Juliane, I mean, we clearly see that AI can be used also for good. And I just want to ask you, in general, do you think there is any good that can come out of AI for the use by children, actually, in classrooms also? The answer may be no, because I know you have a very balanced position on this, but I just wanted to ask in general if you also see some positive trends, because we always talk about disinformation, about the fact that it's going to create more and more, either false content or very bad quality content, but maybe there's also some good for kids that can have, easier tools to use and to learn, maybe.
Well, on the issue of, at what point is this going to be beneficial for the human process of learning and becoming literate, I think it's still a little early to say. And what I can say already is that, the beneficial effect of AI on our work, certainly, is that it's really made the case for the need for media literacy. If we were worried about politicians spinning a line, or the pandemic making conspiracy theories spiral out of control, or deep fakes, worming their way into our apps. Now, AI is all the more reason to make sure that people understand the media that they're looking at and the media that they are consuming. So, it's good news for us, because we'll have a lot more work to do. And the other good news is that kids they really want to know about this stuff. Like, when I talk about AI, I like to give the example of, when I ask AI who I am, it will tell me Juliane von Reppert-Bismarck is a media executive based in Berlin. And that's great, because I'm not a media executive and I'm not based in Berlin. And it's a really wonderful example of how easily and how plausibly things can be misconstrued. And the other issue that we really like to talk to kids about is not AI in terms of its practical use through these platforms that we're talking about now, but also AI in terms of how it is being used in the apps. And there we do talk a lot, because media literacy is also about, not just about deciphering content, but media literacy is also about understanding why the content even reaches you. So media literacy is also about understanding the algorithms. And one really interesting result of AI is the way that it is refining and speeding up the creation of preference settings. So, if you think that an app currently relies on your interaction with a post, or your emoticons that you use or whatever to express your engagement, or the time that you spend, this is becoming much, much more refined thanks to AI. And the conversation that we're having with children about how this creates a very pixelated society and a pixelated information state is one that's very, very interesting and very important to explore.
Thank you, Juliane. And we were discussing a little bit before, and maybe on a grimmer note, but Serhii, you were also telling me that you're also, on the wrong uses of AI, you're also quite more and more worried about the impact it may actually have for journalist safety on the front line. So can you tell us a bit more about this?
Yeah, I just was thinking about topic of the conference while going here, and the topic is how AI can impact freedom of expression. Like, what I concerned about of my freedom of expression, this is, for example, if PV drones that might hit my team or me while working nearby, kinda Russia, 25 kilometers, or not, 3 kilometers nearby. This is what I'm afraid about, and I don't know how to react on this. Our team is thinking to buy a radio interference device just to go on the front line, just to disable these FPV drones. But while I'm speaking with soldiers on the front line, they're concerned that soon these radio interference devices might interfere FPV drone connection with operator, but AI will still allowing it to attack the initial goal. And I don't know how to react on this AI danger in this context, and wanted to share this concern with you. I don't know, maybe you know what to do with this. And this is the point what I'm concerned. And another thought that I'm thinking about this, that I agree with this topic, that a lot of AI danger is hidden and we don't know this. Even in our case, it's on the kind of small niche. AI is included for internal use, yes. And recently I saw some statistics, or I don't remember exactly who said this, that during, or maybe Spravdi, Center of Strategic Communication of Ukraine, they said that there was some attempts to use this generative AI video and stuff. Zelensky saying something, and it was a bit weird, and people it was not bringing a lot of danger, because people were not believing this, and they saw that this is some cringe and stuff. And but maybe in a few years it will be better, and it might include us into this discussion. But for previous 2 years it was so dangerous. But what I think is dangerous, this is targeting of audience, and I'm thinking that, I don't know, Russians or whoever generators of fakes might use this or train their models to generate ideas, for example, because one of their popular fakes, this is in Brussels on the wall, somebody draws street art with Zelensky doing something. I know you can generate this stuff, millions, you know, and they send us these pictures. And now we investigate maybe some, I don't know, hybrid attack on fact-checkers worldwide who are receiving this type of stuff. And they use this for generating, and they might use this for generating ideas and strengthening their ideas. Because we see that some waves are kind of repeating because they are not limitless, but type of content, how they disseminate these ideas. This is one street art or picture or museum picture, and you might generate hundreds of cases, and you need to check all of this. Who knows how it be? And so I think that we should use these technologies and experiment with them. And also I think that we should, we have in our team internal document called not AI policy, but automatization policy. And I think for responsible media, it's good to have something like that. First of all, for knowledge sharing inside the team, because when people come and others not come, even I've sometimes forgot how it works. And maybe for better responsibility, because recently I participated in some questionnaire about responsible media. It was a lot of different policies, and I said, wow, so cool, I don't have this one, we will do and this. But there's no discussion about AI policy, maybe like, or in our case, I consider more automatization policy, and I don't see the discussion and need for the responsible media, but maybe this can be one of the points for journalistic associations worldwide, for example.
Thank you, Serhii. I'm conscious of time for different reasons. First, because there is other sessions after us, but also because Juliane needs to catch a train. So maybe I will take, we have 5 minutes left for this panel. I would like to open the possibility for the audience to ask questions if you want. Otherwise, I, of course, have more questions lined up for our speakers, so no worries. But I think it's a good chance for you to ask questions to our distinguished experts here. Yeah, if you want to raise your hand, do it in a visible manner, because it's true, I don't see very much people in the room. Okay. I do have one here. We do have one question here, I think, from the lady.
Hello, hello, is it on? Yeah, okay, here we are, there. Yeah, I just had a question because we heard very interestingly about a journalist, a media outlet using AI, and how in schools media literacy is being tackled by AI, but still it's being developed left and right, different companies able to do whatever they want with it. Are there any other ways that we can harness AI? What are the ways that we can kind of get out ahead of the next AI wave, if there's anything that we can think of?
So I guess your question is around how can we limit the bad effects of AI in a sense, and then try. So I think maybe I can start put on my regulatory hat and say that we see I think some level emerging regulation, let's say, around AI. Of course, in the EU there was the AI Act recently, which people can consider good or bad, depending on where they stand, of course, but at least it is a first attempt at putting some rules to protect citizens' fundamental rights. It will prohibit in the future AI systems that are used for certain purposes, so for remote biometric identification in public places, for law enforcement, for some types of social scoring that could lead to a detriment to you, scraping of facial images on the internet. So I think that's a first attempt at regulating this. We see also in the US an executive order last October being published. I mean, there's an emergence of regulation, but of course, regulation can only do so much. And here I'll turn to my other panelists because I think regulation, for example, on misinformation can be a very helpful tool in the sense that it can introduce obligations for labeling content that's been generated through AI, or require some marking of the content to be able to identify its origin. But of course, malicious actors don't tend to comply with the law. So I think that's where the law maybe sometimes has limited effects. So how can we try to address those negative effects of AI? And I'm sure, Juliane, you'll have an idea on this with media literacy in particular being involved.
I think I'd have to speculate.
Serhii, do you have an idea?
I would say that, first of all, we should use it, not only TikTok scrolling, but maybe another tools and stuff like that. Second, I think we should always ask, what if I will use AI and what will happen? For example, I came to my research colleague and she said, I need list of literature, like written in some APA citation format. And they say, oh my God, it's take a few hours. And I just asked myself, what if I will take this Excel table, drop it to the ChatGPT, will he give me, or it, give me kind of results? Because it's few hours of kind of head pain. And it give me it in 1 minute, but just because I asked, what if I will do this? And the third one, I would say, I would recommend to read researches. A recent one just I was impressed by these ideas. Like, have you ever thought about persuasiveness of AI in different social groups of current technologies? I not, for example. Now I'm thinking, hope you too. And this is a cool way of getting, like latest what's happening. As a second, what's that I'm now in my reading list is kind of huge research on this AI assistant that we launched just recently, how to use them, how to train them, how to use this. And I found this from kind of accident, subscribed to somebody shared me to LinkedIn, and I saw, wow, so cool. And I've never thought about this concept of persuasiveness of different technologies, and whether our content that media might create, even sign it, this was generated by AI. What is more persuasive? Some content from TikTok, that ones that created media, and for which audience, for example. And this is how I look on this.
Thank you very much to both of you. I also want to extend thanks to the colleagues who helped prepare this panel from the EBU and from the European Endowment for Democracy. So I'll ask you to give our panelists a big round of applause. And I will hand over the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to our panelists for sharing their thoughts with us on AI, such an important evolution